You're going to say, somebody got a haircut. I'm going to say, yeah, so what? At least I got some hair to cut still. And then you're going to say, well, you should go back to Supercuts and get your $5 back, jabroni. And I'm going to say, oh, gee, thank you for the Attitude Era rock-inspired insult. To which you're going to say, why do you set out every time to look like cancer patient Kane? To which I will say, is while I don't have as much hair up there as I used to, I'm 41 and I've got a good portion of it. That's a victory. And just because you might have more hair on your back than I do on my head, that is more of your problem than it is mine. Thank you. Now that we got all that crap out of the way, can we talk about my updated mock draft? Sure, what the hell? Why not, huh? Oh, right. So I went and expanded it a little bit this time. I promised, I think the last go-round, that I would do a 2-round mock draft, and lo and behold, I checked, I did. I did picks 1 through 64. And since the last time I did a mock draft, obviously, there were some notable changes here, most notably the trade between New Orleans and Philadelphia. And that's a deal that made all of the sense in the world to me for the Eagles. It really did. They still have 2 first-round picks this year. Now they pick up an additional first-round pick next year. They get some additional draft pick capital. Like, that's how you should leverage situations and opportunities when you have multiple first-round picks in the draft. Figure out a way to turn that into additional draft pick capital. Meanwhile, for the Saints, to basically move like that was really odd. It really was. Like, they have to be cooking up something, because if they're just saying, hey, we want to stay at 16 and 19, then I don't know what the hell you made the trade for. That's just really weird. It's also really weird because unless they are really truly sold on one of these quarterbacks in this draft, you know, why would you be thinking about making a big move up in this draft? I just don't know. I don't get it. We'll see how all of this plays out. But in terms of this mock, you know, I've got Aidan Hutchinson going number 1 overall. I don't think he should be the pick. I don't know if he will be the pick. He might be the default guy right now. I just kind of question it for Jacksonville. It's not even just like a need thing. Do you really think Aidan Hutchinson has a chance to be the best player in this draft? I think he'll be very good in the NFL. I just don't know that he has that level of talent or special traits or characteristics that makes me confident that he'll be the top guy. Now, to perhaps the benefit of the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's almost certain no matter who they would take at number 1 overall wouldn't be the best player in the draft anyways. And that is not meant to slight the Jags. There's plenty of reasons to slight the Jag-offs of the NFL, but this isn't one of them. It's just a reality of, when you look at the past 20, 30 years of draft history, overwhelming majority of the number 1 overall picks in the draft do not end up being the best players. In some cases, it's not even close. So we'll see what happens. It's perhaps less about the talent level and how they fit and how you're going to be incorporating and using them. Where it gets more interesting to me, though, is the Detroit Lions. Like, are you really going to sit there and take either an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman with that second pick? Maybe you'll get somebody like the Saints to peel up and give you a massive draft haul to move down from 2. And if you could do that, maybe you should explore that. But I'll say this, is that the Lions sitting there at number 2, maybe they'll feel it's a safer pick to take somebody like a Travon Walker. Maybe they feel like it would be a safer pick to take somebody like a Kayvon Thibodeaux, although I would question that. Maybe they feel like they could take one of these offensive linemen and figure it out later. I don't know. But the reality is until they get a quarterback, they have nothing. And do you really want to have to sit through another year of Jared Goff? And you might say, well, let's see what next year's draft class has. What's to say that next year's draft class will even be at the same level of this one, let alone better? Sometimes you have to take the opportunity to get one and figure it out. So I've got him taking Malik Willis here. I'm not sold on it by any means, but I'm not ruling it out either. Honestly, though, right now, I'm not that sold on a lot of what I've got in this mock draft. Because I feel like I see a ton of guys that are really grouped together, but not a lot of real true standout stud prospects, like absolute no-doubters. Like if I look at an Aidan Hutchinson, what's so different from a talent level for a him versus a Travon Walker or a Thibodeaux? You know, I might like Jermaine Johnson as much as all of those guys, And if Ojabo didn't tear his Achilles, he might be edge rusher 1 on my board. Might be. Like, my point is that when I look at a lot of these positions, it's hard to differentiate some of these guys. It's hard to differentiate a lot of these guys. I'm curious to see what Houston does now because they've got the extra first-round pick with the Deshaun Watson deal. Like, are they going to double down on defense, which I have them doing here, which could potentially happen with Lovie Smith? You know, maybe he looks at Travon Walker or one of the edge rushers and says, I need an edge rusher. Maybe they focus on the offensive line. I don't know. The Devin Lloyd pick, it might feel a little early to have him going 13, and maybe it is. But I can envision him looking at it and saying, I want my Briggs or Urlacher in this defense. And feeling that a guy like Devin Lloyd could be that level of playmaker. Because when you look at Lovie 2 defense, you know, is a little different than the Tampa 2 defense in the sense of he used to have Urlacher and Briggs. Like, Tampa had Derek Brooks, obviously, on the weak side, but you know, you look at that middle linebacker, weak side linebacker combination of Urlacher and Briggs, it's one of the best duos at linebacker in my lifetime. It really is. So sometimes guys from the past tend to true back to what they know. So we'll see what happens. For the Jets, they've got 2 first-round picks. Me personally, I would be investing both of them in the offense, but they're probably split the difference to take a defender and an offensive player with those 2 picks. The Giants, looking at them at 5 and 7, they just need talent. Like, yes, at the end of the day, you want to focus on offense first. And that's why I'm kind of concerned here. Like, when I look at my mock draft right now, 3 of the top 4 picks are on the defensive side. You know what I mean? Like, that just feels off to me. It feels like teams should be focusing more on the offensive side of the ball. And those offensive players, as a result, should rise. And if anything, you get some value out of some of these defensive guys later in the draft. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there is some pretty good value here with some of these guys as you go through the draft board. But yeah. As far as the Bears, I didn't bother with any trades or anything. For those Bears fans that are watching, wondering who I've got them mocked to take, this is not me making any type of personal preference statement or anything like that. I was just saying if I look at the Bears, I certainly could consider that they might take a corner in round 2. I really do. Certainly would expect one of those 2 second-round picks, if they actually keep both of those second-round picks, and where they're at, one of those 2 is going to be spent on a wide receiver. I know a lot of Bears fans are hoping that George Pickens will be there at 39. Do you really think he's going to? Do you think? I don't know about all that. He might, but I've got him going pick 30 to Kansas City. But like, when you look at the Bears, they need talent all over the place. My preference personally would be it should be offense, offense, offense. But you've seen, like, even in the offseason and free agency, Poles has taken like a very balanced, I'll focus a little on defense, I'll focus a little bit on offense. He hasn't as much made a commitment of he's going to focus on one side of the ball or the other. So I could expect a similar type of approach to the draft. That said, they absolutely should be looking to peel back from both of these second-round picks. They need additional draft pick capital both for this year and especially for next year. That should be the primary focus. And then giving some help to Justin Fields on the offensive side of the ball. But some of you may look at this mock draft. I'm trying to think of anything else I see that might surprise some people. I've got Kyle Hamilton going 18 to Pittsburgh. And when you're talking about a safety that big that runs only at that speed, I'm not saying that's fair or not, but the reality is that some teams are going to have concerns about, is he a linebacker out of position at safety? Do they feel like they're going to have to structure their defense around him, and is he the type of talent that you really want to do that with? So I certainly don't think it's as much of a lock that he's a top 10, let alone top 5 pick that people have been mocking for months. That's why it's important sometimes to allow the draft process to play out and sometimes to stay away from some of the early takes about where guys are going to go. Because you're hearing about Kayvon Thibodeaux dropping out of the top 10, Kyle Hamilton, dropping out of the top 10, maybe not even being the first safety taken. And is that a reflection of status and stock changes, or a reflection of the draft community didn't know what the hell they were talking about for months? Probably more of the latter. But anyways, you could check out my 2-round mock in the description box below and give me all your hate there appropriately. Yes. If you want to just crap on me for my haircut, who'd you have do it? I did it myself. It's called I buy some clippers and I do it myself every couple of months. It's a chance for me to wipe the slate clean. You know what? I don't have to justify shit to you. How about that?